In this video, we uncover the chilling story of a young woman whose night out with a powerful man turned into her worst nightmare. A young woman's body was discovered on an empty road in the state of Morelos. Fearing for their safety, bystanders quickly called the police and fire departments. She was still on the ground with bloody, rumpled clothes and obvious bruises on her body. Nobody found any personal items or identification papers in the area that could help figure out who she was. What happened next in this case would lead detectives to a very disturbing series of events. Ariadna Fernanda Lopez Diaz was born on July 5, 1995, in a rough part of Mexico City. Her childhood was hard because her family didn't have much money, but she had love in her home. She and her older brother, Omar Rodriguez Diaz, were raised by their mother. Even though they didn't have a father role and didn't want to be a part of their lives, their small family stayed together. Omar filled that void, becoming both a role model and a guardian for Ariadna. The closeness between them made her feel safe, like someone was always looking out for her. The fact that Ariadna was naturally friendly and open made her popular with her peers. She made friends quickly and was known for being honest and ready to help. During school, she had a lot of close friends with whom she shared hopes and dreams for the future. But disaster hit her when she was a young adult. In 2018, Ariadna was only 23 years old when she learned that her mother had cancer. The illness got worse very quickly, and the family soon had to deal with the terrible loss. Both Ariadna and Omar were very sad when their mother died. The event strengthened their relationship and pushed Ariadna to grow up quickly, taking charge of her own life. She got a tattoo with her mother's name on it to remember her and carry that image with her forever. Sometime before her mother got sick, Ariadna started dating a young man. They became close very quickly, and soon after, she found out she was pregnant. The birth of their son changed their lives, but it didn't make things more stable in the long run. The two people quickly understood that their relationship wasn't meant to last, so they broke up. Even so, they kept a friendly relationship and shared parenting chores. As a mom, Ariadna had to deal with new problems. She had to find a steady job and raise her son at the same time. She took the first step towards being financially independent when she got a job at a popular pub in Mexico City with wealthy customers. People expected a lot from the job, especially in terms of how skilled they were and how well they got along with others. That's where she learned how to deal with a lot of different kinds of people. Ariadna did her job, even though it was hard, because she was charming and had a strong work ethic. Her life changed when the pandemic happened. She lost her job when the bar closed. Ariadna didn't give up, though. She saw it as a chance to finally follow a dream she'd been putting off for a long time: opening her own beauty shop. This project became a sign of her drive to make her own way in life. She was able to start a business that helped her and her son make money, because she had a lot of knowledge and a strong network of contacts. During this time, Ariadna started dating someone new. She met a guy right away and felt at ease with him. Their relationship made her happy and stable. Her son, her job, and the person she was getting closer to took up most of her time now. Even though her days were full, she was thankful for them and looked forward to every new chance that came her way. Ariadna's life looked like a carefully put-together puzzle by the time she was 27. Every win and every loss had helped paint a full picture. She had been through loss, started over in life, focused on her son's future, and made her own way on her own. But what seemed like the beginning of a good story was actually the sad start of something much worse. Vanessa Flores and Ariadna met through friends they both had. They met for the first time at a party that Ariadna went to with her pals. Vanessa stood out right away. Young, full of energy, and charming. She could get anyone in the room's attention and talk to them. People who knew Vanessa well, on the other hand, often said she was unreliable. Behind her charm were rough spots, and her actions would sometimes catch people off guard. The businessman Rautel Astudillo Garcia, who was in his middle years, was often seen with Vanessa. There were stories going around about him. He was famous for being rich, powerful, and living a fancy life. Younger women who wanted to be in his inner group were often seen with him. He was followed by whispers and stories about high-level links and even rumors of ties to organized groups. But no one in his circle of friends could ever confirm anything. Rautel himself tried to dodge direct questions about his past or business dealings. People respected him and felt uneasy when they were around him. Ariadna was smart and independent, but she didn't realize right away how different these new friends were from the people she usually hangs out with. Vanessa often talked about how close she was to important people, especially Rautel, in order to impress. As she put it, he was someone who could solve problems. Ariadna spent more time with them over time. Vanessa gave Ariadna lots of attention and worked hard to earn her trust, showing that she was truly interested in her. Rautel was interested in meeting Ariadna as soon as Vanessa told him about her. When they met for the first time, he surprised her with how attentive he was and how well he could talk. People were drawn to his confidence and charm, and Ariadna was no different. But there was a lot more to that person than met the eye. People who knew him said that he was good at manipulating people. Still, Ariadna thought he was polite and even kind. Vanessa continued to be very important in making the relationship stronger. Her frequent invitations to Ariadna to events where Rautel would be present made the space feel open and safe. But as time went on, small red flags started to show up. Ariadna's close friends began to warn her to be careful around these people. Some people knew that Rautel had a bad reputation, and Vanessa was acting in strange ways. They were afraid that this new circle might hide a danger. Even though her friends had warned her not to, Ariadna didn't think her new group of friends was dangerous. She liked having a friend like Vanessa because it took her mind off of her daily problems and let her explore a world she hadn't been able to reach before. On the other hand, Rautel worked to earn her trust by being kind and generous. His invitations to parties and dinners seemed fun and safe. At the time, Ariadna was in a relationship, but that didn't stop her from keeping up with friends or going to social events every once in a while. People close to her say that her partner trusted her and never said anything bad about her social life. Slowly but surely, Ariadna began to notice changes. Vanessa started calling more often and suggesting trips and plans that would involve spending free time together. Rautel, on the other hand, slowly tried to become more involved in her life, making it clear that he was always there to help or support her. Ariadna slowly became more involved with their world, but she didn't know where it would lead. Ariadna agreed to Vanessa's invite to spend the evening with friends on October 30th, 2022. The get-together started at Fisher's, a cool restaurant in the middle of Mexico City. Vanessa told her it would be a chill night with good food and fun talk. It was likely that Rautel would also join them, which made Ariadna feel a little uncomfortable. She wasn't sure about him, but she didn't want to upset Vanessa, so she went anyway. The group got together in the evening. Fisher's was busy because it is known for its high-class crowd and stylish decor. It was a casual setting at their table. There were lots of glasses of wine and cocktails, and plates of appetizers made the night feel fun. As usual, Rautel was the star of the show. He told stories, made toasts, and showed off how well he got along with the waitstaff. He seemed sure of himself and let people know he was there. Vanessa was there for him and made him laugh with jokes. The rest of the group tried to keep up the happy mood by doing what they did, but Ariadna stood out. She didn't seem completely at ease. She looked at her phone a lot, answering texts and scanning the screen with worry. She often looked at Rautel with her eyes, as if she were trying to figure out what he was saying or doing below the surface. Vanessa tried to bring her back into the talk by telling her to calm down and have another drink, but Ariadna stayed calm and almost guarded. The look on her face showed that she was feeling more than the scene could hide. Around 7:30 p.m., Ariadna wrote a mysterious message on her social media account. "Would you miss me if I disappeared?" Many people who saw the post felt uneasy. Some people laughed it off as a joke. However, people who knew her well thought that the message wasn't something she would normally write. It made her feel strange, and no one knew at the time that that feeling would be linked to her last hours. The group chose to spend the rest of the night at Rautel's house as the night went on. Rautel came up with the idea, and Vanessa agreed with him because she thought it would be more private and calm there. Ariadna wasn't sure at first, but her friend pushed her, and she agreed. The rest of the group agreed with the idea, and Rautel's car took them all to the house. It was fitting for Rautel's public image that his home was in a nice area. The inside was sleek and modern with some high-end touches. The group settled into a large sitting room when they got there. There was music, drinks were served, and the night went on. But Ariadna felt more and more uncomfortable. She moved out of the way several times, looked at her phone, and pretended to take calls. It was clear that she was far away and focused on something else. When Vanessa caught on, she started talking to Rautel, which made things even more tense in the room. Ariadna told them she was tired and wanted to go home around midnight. But Vanessa told her to stay a little longer, just for another half hour. Rautel kept quiet, but his long, unblinking gaze made Ariadna look like she was in pain. As the night went on, many of the guests finally left. She was one of the last ones to die. No one in that group would see her alive again after that night. The next morning, October 31st, 2022, a shocking event took place in the state of Morelos. Two bikers out for a morning ride found the body of a woman lying next to a lonely road. The place was far from major roads and in an area that people don't usually go to. The harsh atmosphere was made worse by the sparse vegetation, dusty ground, and deafening quiet. The woman was dressed, but her clothes were dirty and torn. There were many bruises and lines on her body that looked like they were from being hurt. The writers called the police right away, and they arrived several hours later. While that was going on, the writers took pictures of the scene in the hopes that they would help with identification. When the cops got there, they made sure the area was safe and started gathering evidence. In the mud, there were tire tracks and marks that looked like the body had been moved. Forensic experts saw signs of a fight, but it wasn't immediately clear what caused the death. There were no weapons or cuts on the body that would point to a clear cause of death. She didn't have any papers or personal things on her that could prove who she was. After hours, pictures of the scene started going around on social media, which made a lot of people worried. Friends and family of Ariadna who had gone missing after going to the party at Rautel's house were among the people who found the pictures. Her brother Omar saw things that looked like her scars, and thought the worst. He told the police that the woman they found might be his sister when he made a missing person report. At the same time, officials in the state of Morelos started a separate investigation. On the other hand, the first things the local cops did were harshly criticized. There were problems with the rules for gathering evidence, and some important clues at the scene were never properly recorded. There were major concerns about the honesty and competence of the local police in this case. As soon as Ariadna's family arrived to publicly identify the body, their worst fears came true. Omar knew it was his sister because of the memorial tattoo on her shoulder for their late mother. The shock was unbearable, and it got worse when they saw how badly her body was hurt. The cuts and bruises on her face and arms made it clear that she had been violent in some way. Even so, the police's first comments were not clear and did not make sense. The first thing the family did was demand justice. Right away, they called for an open probe and said that those responsible should be held responsible. On the same day, they asked friends who were on social media to help spread the word. Many people quickly learned about the effort and paid attention to it. Even though there was more and more public pressure, the Morelos State Police stuck to their idea that the death might have been an accident. They said that a firm decision would not be possible until the forensic report was finished. This stance made people even more suspicious, especially when rumors spread that powerful people might be trying to hide the truth. Rautel and Vanessa were the last people who were known to have seen Ariadna living, so they were the first people investigators called. The first story of what happened was based on what they said. For the first time, Rautel said that Ariadna had chosen to leave his house after the party and had called a cab. He said she looked a little upset, but not scared or upset. He said that he walked her to the door, and then she left on her own. Vanessa agreed with him and said Ariadna took a cab away and didn't say where she was going. There were, however, quick holes in their story. The first red flag was that there was no confirmed taxi report. Rautel and Vanessa were not able to give a driver's contact information or any proof to back up their claim. Later, police found several cab service logs in the area, but none of them showed that Ariadna had been picked up that night. Another worry was Vanessa's story kept changing. What she said changed based on what was being asked. At first, she said that Ariadna was left alone. She later said that they had fought at the party, which made it sound like Ariadna might have been upset. Friends of Ariadna told police that Vanessa had contacted them after she went missing, using Ariadna's mysterious social media post to try to suggest that she might have been having mental health issues. Many people were suspicious after reading that post, which she wrote just hours before she disappeared. At first, her family and close friends thought it was a joke, but police started to think it might have been a sign that she was upset on the night of the party. Vanessa's attitude was getting more and more nervous, which made things even stranger. In her texts to her friends, Ariadna seemed eager to avoid going into too much detail about what happened that night. She even said in one message that she was afraid of being accused. But she didn't say why. These clues made agents more sure that Vanessa might not be telling them important things. At first, the results of the investigation did not make it clear what killed Ariadne. But when police and outside experts looked into it more, they found important proof. 2 different autopsies, surveillance footage, and texts from the suspects' phones helped people figure out what really happened. According to the first official autopsy report from the authorities in Morelos, Ariadna died of bronchial aspiration, which made it impossible for her to breathe. It was said in the study that food and alcohol in her airways could have caused a fatal reaction, but her family didn't agree with this decision right away. They pointed out that the report didn't fully talk about the many bruises and other injuries that could be seen on her body. In spite of the official statement, Ariadna's family and friends wanted a second autopsy to be done by a different person. Because people and her family wanted it, Ariadna's body was taken to a separate forensic center in Mexico City. The results of this second test were completely different from the first ones. Experts found many injuries on her, including cuts and bruises on her head, as well as signs of physical aggression on her arms and legs, which suggested she may have been trying to defend herself. These results proved that Ariadna's death could not have been an accident, or only caused by drinking. Authorities were able to reclassify the case as a crime because her death was seen as the result of aggressive actions. CCTV footage from Rautel's apartment block was one of the most important pieces of proof. At one point, Rautel was seen early the next morning, after the party, bringing Ariadna's dead body to his car. He put her in the car and drove off, as caught on another camera. There was no doubt that he moved the body and may have been trying to hide what had happened because of these tapes. More research into Rautel and Vanessa's phone messages showed that they had talks in which they planned what to say after the party. Their texts showed that they were trying to make their stories fit with the police's and to explain their actions to Ariadna's friends. Vanessa sent Rautel a message about how Ariadna's family was putting more and more pressure on her, and he told her that everything was fine. In one of the messages, there were clear instructions on how to answer certain questions without making people suspicious. Vanessa kept telling Ariadna's friends that she thought Ariadna might have been having mental problems, which could have led to her disappearance on purpose. This story didn't fit with what Ariadna's friends said about her. They said she was lively and positive and had never had an emotional breakdown. These contradictions made people even more suspicious about Vanessa's part. The surveillance video, the second autopsy, and the text messages all made the picture much clearer when looked at together. Investigators came to the conclusion that the first idea, which said that Rautel died accidentally or left her home on purpose, did not make sense. In fact, the evidence pointed to an aggressive act and a planned attempt to hide the body. Based on these results, legal action was taken against both Rautel and Vanessa. They would soon have to go to court to face charges. Vanessa was the first person who was grabbed. The police found that she'd been talking to Rautel a lot in the days after Ariadna's death, mostly about how to avoid getting in trouble with the law. The media paid close attention to her arrest. Vanessa claimed that she had nothing to do with Ariadna's death when she was first being questioned, but her words were full of contradictions. She said she didn't remember what happened after the event because she went to bed early the night of the event. That being said, more research showed that this was not true. Message logs showed that she knew what was going on and had talked to Rautel about important information. The police also found that Vanessa had deleted pictures and conversations that could have been used as evidence and tried to stay away from anything related to the events that followed. Rautel decided to turn himself in when he saw how much evidence was against him. He went to the police station with his lawyers and told them he was innocent. His explanation says that he did not do anything wrong to Ariadna. Instead, he became scared when he found her unconscious in his house the morning after the party and tried to hide her body out of fear that he would be blamed. The investigators, on the other hand, had major doubts about his story. First, it was clear from the second exam that she had been hurt, which went against his claim that she died without any help. Second, surveillance video showed that he was carrying her body on purpose, trying to hide so that no one would see him. This is not the behavior of someone who is trying to get help. His text messages with Vanessa also showed that they had planned their stories together and were trying to trick people about what happened. At this point in the study, new information that was troubling and suggested possible corruption came to light. More and more people thought that Rautel and a lawyer in Morelos had something to do with each other. In the original autopsy report from that state, there was no mention of any injuries that could have been caused by violence. Public interest lawyers and Ariadna's family said the judge may have used their power to shield Rautel. A lot of people were outraged by these claims. Mexico City officials started a formal review of the prosecutor's actions, and Internal Affairs started their own probe into whether the prosecutor may have done anything wrong. Some witnesses said Rautel was connected to crime groups, which could explain why he seemed so sure that he would not get caught. New proof and more questions about the suspects showed that at least one of them knew more about what happened that night than they first said. Still, both Vanessa and Rautel denied doing anything wrong. Instead, they changed the subject and focused on supporting each other. Their lack of cooperation only made detectives more suspicious, which was a big reason why they were put in temporary custody. An in-depth and long-lasting study was made into what happened that night and why it happened. To find the truth, the timeline had to be put back together, physical evidence had to be analyzed, and the behavior of those at the meeting had to be closely looked at. I got a better idea of what was going on over time. One that is made up of contradictory claims, digital records, and psychological profiles of the main people involved. The mood of the group slowly changed that night. Ariadna, Vanessa, Rautel, and a few other friends they all had in common got together for dinner and drinks at a restaurant in the middle of Mexico City. Everything looked fine at first glance. Laughter, talking, and music, but hints that something wasn't right. Based on witness accounts and an analysis of her text messages, Ariadne seemed to be very quiet and busy. Friends afterwards said that she didn't act like she usually does at social events when she was on her phone, sending messages and taking calls. During the investigation, that information became very important. In her text to a friend, she said she was worried about the event and didn't feel comfortable around some of the people who were there. The group went to Rautel's house after leaving the meal. The land, which had a big house with a high fence and security cameras, was known as a place where people could get together privately. Vanessa and Rautel were the guests, but there was tension between them that was clear. Later, people who saw what happened said that Vanessa said a few mean things to Ariadna during the night. To stay out of trouble, Ariadna replied calmly and did her best to avoid getting into a fight. The review found that things got worse as the night went on and the alcohol wore off. Vanessa got very angry and accused Ariadna of being rude and nasty several times. She was clearly upset. No one else at the meeting agreed with these claims, but things were getting more and more tense. Rautel tried to remain neutral, but it was clear that Vanessa's actions made him feel bad. The important day came the next morning. Witnesses said they saw Ariadna walking towards the door as if she were trying to leave the house. However, she quickly came back, for reasons that are still being looked into. At that point, Vanessa is thought to have kept arguing with her, which made things worse. Investigators think that jealousy was at the heart of the fight. Vanessa supposedly said that Ariadna was making Rautel too interested in her. Messages found on phones showed that Vanessa and Rautel had talked about the tense parts of that night later. Some people, like Vanessa, Rautel, and Ariadna, stayed in the house after most of the guests had left. In the case file, it says that Vanessa became more and more angry when she was drunk. Investigators think that there was a fight at some point that led to Ariadna's deadly injuries. Just why did Ariadna write such a weird message on Facebook that night? Many people thought it was a joke at first, but close friends have since confirmed that she was probably feeling awkward because of Vanessa's actions and the tense atmosphere at the party. The post could have been her way of showing that she was upset or uneasy. It became clear that Vanessa's jealousy, which was made worse by her drinking and unstable emotions, was a major factor in what happened next. Rautel didn't seem to want to call for help. Instead, he seemed to be trying to hide what had happened. Things were done that made things worse in the end. Personal disagreements, uncontrolled feelings, and bad choices all came together to cause a tragedy that could have been avoided if things hadn't been so tense that night. Omar, Ariadna's older brother, is now taking care of her 6-year-old kid. As the only man she is close to, he has taken on the roles of both defender and father figure. Omar has taken full responsibility for the child and is not only taking care of its needs, but also honoring his sister by giving her boy the love and stability that Ariadna used to give so freely. The boy's family has come together to help him deal with his loss and make sure he grows up in a caring and supportive environment. It was important for Ariadna's family to be involved in the ongoing search for the full truth about her death. They set up protests and campaigns on social media, and they worked non-stop to keep people interested in the case. One of their biggest successes was getting foreign media attention, which put a lot more pressure on Mexico's justice system to be open and honest. The early court hearings in Ariadna's case were a major turning point in the search for justice. Even though some authorities tried to stop them, her family and their lawyers were able to make sure the case was treated openly and fairly, and that all of its aspects were looked at in detail. The public and the press were very interested in every step of the investigation and court case. This made it hard for people to hide facts or lie about them. The first step in the legal process was to figure out what parts Rautel and Vanessa played. During the hearings, the prosecutors showed strong proof, such as recordings, surveillance footage, and text messages taken from the defendants' phones. Not only did these things back up claims that they helped hide Ariadna's body, but they also suggested that they may have been aggressive before she died. The defense said the whole thing happened by accident, but there is a lot of witness statements and forensic proof that makes that explanation very unlikely. Finding out why the crime was done was one of the main points of the hearing. Individuals who knew Vanessa well said that she was moody and prone to outbursts, especially when she was drunk. Rautel, on the other hand, was shown to have a shady past and ties to criminal networks, which made people wonder even more about his role that night. Both defendants denied killing Ariadna, but their evidence often went against what was known, which made people even more suspicious of them. At this point, there is still no final decision, and the investigation is still going on. But based on the evidence they have collected, prosecutors have brought murder charges that could be classified as femicide, which is a crime motivated by hatred based on gender. In Mexico, this kind of labeling is seen as a factor that makes the crime worse, and if both suspects are found guilty, they could face up to 70 years in jail. Thank you for watching and staying with us until the end of this story. Every case we cover is more than just a crime. It's a life taken, a family shattered, and a truth that demands to be told. Behind every headline is a person whose voice was silenced too soon, and it's our mission to make sure their story is never forgotten. Evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it hides behind charm, power, or even love. Each case reminds us that danger can exist in the most unexpected places, and that trust can become the first step toward tragedy. But through every darkness, there's light. The light of truth, of justice, and of those who refuse to stop asking questions. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to subscribe, share, and turn on notifications. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the truth always surfaces, no matter how deeply it's buried.